After storms, heat, and humidity dominated much of the country, the pattern is calming down. This week begins with a zonal flow overhead, but there's a midweek disturbance that's worth tracking. And in the Gulf, we're already watching signs of the tropical mischief. As we begin on our Monday, we are watching a generally zonal flow across the United States with the Canadian border from west to east. But don't be deceived by this, because it's often in these fast-moving zonal flows where disturbances can spin up very quickly. And we start to see this here by Tuesday. We see something coming out of British Columbia down into Montana. That's going to bring a change of some significantly cooler weather and some unsettled weather across parts of Montana into the Intermountain West by the time we get to our Wednesday. So let's look at this. As we begin Monday, there's that scattered precipitation. We also have scattered precipitation through the Tennessee Valley, up through the Northeast. This is going to be associated a lot with the afternoon heating. We're watching areas down here in the Gulf for a possible disturbance, but here on Tuesday comes that trough digging into Montana, bringing with it some showers, and out ahead of it across parts of the Dakotas into Minnesota. We could be getting a line of storms as we get those temperature clashes across the northern plains. And we can see it here on our 500 millibar map. We see that zonal flow. We have high pressure here, high pressure across the southeast, but it's basically west to east for this week until we get to that Tuesday time frame. And if we look at it with the future radar, we see this pattern kind of going from west to east. But we start to see showers across parts of British Columbia into Alberta. That's associated with that dip that we're going to see across parts of Montana. But across the rest of the country, we are seeing just mainly afternoon scattered thunderstorms. As we get into Tuesday, that trough becomes a little more pronounced as it makes its way into the Intermountain West. Afternoon heating in the southeast and across the southwest does continue to produce those scattered thunderstorms. We're going to see highs across the Central Plains very warm in the 90s to near 100, especially across parts of the Dakotas and eastern Montana, even into southern Idaho. But let's look across parts of Alberta. Temperatures here are going to be in the 40s and 50s for your afternoon highs. Out across the Ohio Valley, where you have those afternoon thunderstorms, temperatures are going to be held down into the 80s. Into the Northeast, you're in the 70s. Across the deep south, it's summertime, it's hot, it's humid. Temperatures approaching the mid-90s through the Carolinas back through Georgia. Out across the west, we're still hanging on to that heat for at least a couple more days. The interior California, 105 plus. Even in the deserts, we're looking at 110. Las Vegas, you're looking about 108 for your Monday. But here we go. On Tuesday, we're starting to see that cooler air make its way down, even into eastern Washington, into Oregon. Temperatures here are in the 70s and 80s, but it's most noticeable here across Montana, where afternoon highs are going to be in the 50s and 60s. And those cooler temperatures even are making their way across the Dakotas by Tuesday afternoon. And as we saw on the future radar map, we have 90s and high 90s at that across parts of southeastern South Dakota and Nebraska, 60s to the north. So it's no surprise that it is across this part of the country where we're going to see that setup for some severe weather Tuesday night, and it's going to dive south and east overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. So let's look at that. Here we go Wednesday morning. We see those showers making their way through Wisconsin, but yet another batch of storms is going to fire across parts of Nebraska, into Kansas, into Iowa, Wednesday into Thursday. We're going to have afternoon scattered showers across the southeast, but again, as that energy moves to the east, we're going to see more showers and scattered storms. Here by Thursday night, we see another line forming as it makes its way into the Ohio Valley. In terms of our temperatures on our Wednesday, that cooler air is starting to sink a little bit further south. Why we see the storms across Nebraska down to Kansas, where you're at 101, but parts of Nebraska, you're in the mid-60s. So it's a classic setup of where those battle lines are going to be drawn. And that's why I said, even though the main pattern of the jet stream is west to east and it's very zonal, we can get fast-moving systems that appear very innocent, very non-threatening. It's not an organized, severe outbreak. But these temperature contrasts can produce, with just enough lift, enough dip in the trough, or enough instability in the atmosphere, we can really generate those afternoon thunderstorms. And that's what we're going to see for several days, starting here across Montana on Tuesday, making its way down on Wednesday, and then a little bit further south and east for Thursday. But look across Montana and the Dakotas. Afternoon highs in the 50s. Nighttime lows could be in the 30s across this area Thursday morning. So we're going to have to watch this area, because this is a taste of fall. But that cooler air even extends across parts of northern Wisconsin, places like Rhinelander, you're in the mid-50s to near 60. The UP of Michigan, where some of the waters, if you saw the reports over the weekend, Some of the waters in Lake Superior off Isle Royale are at 39 degrees at this time of the year. And that cool air even extends into Ontario, into Quebec, into the Canadian Maritime provinces. But by Thursday, what we're seeing across parts of Texas, temperatures rebounding in the 100s, 90s, and mid-90s across the southeast, but even making their way up the East Coast. Where we were in the 50s and 60s earlier this week, we're warming back into the 70s and 80s, and that warmth is starting to build across the west again. Eastern Washington and Oregon, you're in the mid-90s. Southern Idaho, near 100. Las Vegas, 103. But here we go again. We have yet another batch that could potentially bring another trough as we get toward the weekend into the Intermountain West and the Northern Plains. Something we're still going to watch. It's still about 5 days away, but we could see another round of cooler weather and severe weather across this part of the country. So as we begin our Friday, we're watching unsettled weather in the eastern third of the United States. The afternoon heating is going to help fuel some of these storms. As we go into Friday night, we're watching some scattered showers across parts of Colorado and New Mexico and across the northern tier. As we wake up Saturday morning, Minnesota, you could have a rumble or two of thunder. As we go through Saturday, we're watching this low that's bringing that cooler air as it makes its way into Montana. It's going to meet that warmer air across the plains, and we could see some scattered severe weather Saturday into Sunday. Where that sets up and develops, still too early to determine, but we will bring you the latest on that. We have some tropical news to share with you today. The National Hurricane Center has highlighted the area from basically the coastal areas of Florida on the west coast all the way over towards New Orleans, with a 20% chance of tropical development over the next 7 days. Right now, the conditions are marginal for development, but we're going to continue to watch this because even if it doesn't become a named storm or a tropical depression, the thing that we're going to experience over the next 7 days is a lot of rainfall generated by this upper level disturbance across the Gulf Coast. And in fact, if we look at the precipitation forecast, we could see anywhere from 2 to 3 up to, as we get over into Mississippi and Alabama, 4 to 6, possibly 7 inches of rain. And as we get toward New Orleans, 3 inches of rain is possible by the time we get to Saturday morning. So it's really anywhere along the coast, the west coast of Florida, into the Panhandle, and then down across Mississippi and Alabama where we could see that heavy rain. But you just go a little bit further inland, the rain is not going to be as intense. Maybe up to an inch, but most areas will receive less than a half an inch by the time we get to Saturday morning. And really, outside of this, it's across the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valleys, stretching into the northeast, that we expect to see 1 to 2 inches of rain. That's what's indicated by that purple by the time we get to Saturday morning. Here across parts of Iowa, though, we could see up to 2 to 3 inches of rain by Saturday. Places like Davenport, Iowa, where you saw 5 to 7 inches of rain on your Friday night. This is not needed rain, but we'll see how that plays out. And then across, as those storms make their way out of Alberta into Montana and across the northern tier through Minnesota, through Wisconsin, we could see isolated areas of 1 to 2 inches of rain. Well, it is a quieter pattern this week, but we may just be in the calm before the next round of action. There are signs, though, that as we head toward the last week of July, that the pattern will flip again with a deeper trough across the eastern half of the United States and more widespread storm activity. So we'll be watching that and monitoring each model run to bring you the latest information. Make sure you go ahead and you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss Wednesday's update. Like, share, hit that bell notification icon so you can be aware of the latest forecast that we have here at the Weather Farm. Have a wonderful Monday, and we will see you again real soon.